Hi, everybody. This is Mrs.DeLap here, and today we are going to be talking about plot versus setting. So I'm going to bring up our reading textbook, pages 22 and 23. I'm going to put them up on my screen so that you can see that nice and big, and then I'll be down here in the corner so you can still see me. But while I share my screen and get that pulled up, I want you to grab your reading book and open it to page 22 and 23. Okay, so there is what you should be seeing on page 22 and 23. We're going to be talking about literary elements, setting, and plot. So, setting is the time and place in which a story occurs. Setting can shape events and behaviors. Plot is the pattern of events in a story. Usually events happen in a sequential order, so you know what's coming next. A plot has a conflict or problem, a rising action when the conflict builds, a climax, the most exciting part of the story, and the resolution, how they solve the problem. We're going to be talking about using graphic organizers later on to be able to discuss the setting and the plot and things like that, but we're not going to do that today. I just want you to listen. So while I read out High Plains Children, I want you to think about what is the setting and what is the plot, and what are some points of the plot and what are some points of the setting that you can think about and be able to talk about when we get together for our reading Zoom meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. All right, High Plains childhood. My parents moved us to the treacherous high plains of West Texas in 1853 when I was 7 and my sister Jenny was 12. We lived in the middle of a gigantic rolling prairie and were stunned by how dry and hot it was and by how many wild animals were around. We encountered many challenging circumstances. One time, we were caught in a violent sandstorm. It was around noon, and Jenny and I were walking back to our cabin. Suddenly, the wind picked up, the sky blackened, and blowing grains of sand struck our faces and arms. I screamed. Jenny pulled me to the ground. The storm pounded us for about 10 minutes. All we could do was lie there. And when it ended, sand covered our bodies and filled our clothing. Then, just 3 days later, I was stopped in my tracks by a rattlesnake. I stood there like a statue, eyes unblinking as the snake stared menacingly at me. After a few horrifying moments, it did slither off, and I ran like the wind back home. I then sat down and wept the fear out of my body. So I want you to think about what is the plot. So what are the main things that happened in the story? And what is the setting? What's the time and what's the place of our story? We're going to talk about this during our meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then we'll also talk about your personal narrative. So I want you thinking about some topics that maybe you'll be excited to write about, because that's right, you get to choose. All right, guys, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for our reading Zoom. Bye.